Hello, I'm Dejan Kosutic and welcome to Cyber and AI Perspectives. Cybersecurity has relied on a guiding principle or three principles for more than 30 years. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the CIA Triad. But now we face an even bigger challenge: how to govern artificial intelligence. And surprisingly, some of the lessons that we learned from the CIA Triad may also help us tackle one of the biggest questions in AI governance: how to build trustworthy AI. Let's dive first into this CIA Triad. Since it was first introduced back in 1990, it has become the ultimate guiding principle for handling cybersecurity because it gives security professionals a clear goal regarding what needs to be achieved when protecting data. So, how does the CIA Triad help companies? It gives them a clear direction on how to manage risks. First, it helps them identify risks because when assessing risks, you can ask yourself, what can negatively impact the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of my data? And then you start finding risks of someone unauthorized accessing or changing your data, as well as the risks of losing your data. Second, it helps you assess how important those risks are, because you can measure the potential impact of incidents on the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data. This way, out of hundreds or thousands of identified risks, you can distinguish which are the most important ones to focus on. And finally, the third way the CIA Triad helps is by enabling you to select controls based on how they mitigate negative impacts on confidentiality, integrity, and availability. For example, when you create backups, you protect the data against loss, which means you're protecting the availability of data. But you're also protecting data integrity, because if data becomes corrupted on your production systems, you can restore uncorrupted data from backups. When you encrypt data, you protect its confidentiality, but also its integrity, because if the data cannot be accessed, it cannot be corrupted either. Now, let's switch to AI governance. According to 3 out of 4 leading AI governance frameworks, the OECD AI Principles, the EU AI Act, and NIST AI Risk Management Framework, trustworthiness is the leading principle for AI systems, just like the CIA Triad is for cybersecurity. And funnily enough, the fourth framework, and also my favorite, ISO 42001, does mention trustworthiness, but it does not set it as the main principle. However, I'm sure this will be corrected in the next revision of the standard. So why is trustworthiness such a great leading principle for AI? When you think about it, one of the biggest challenges with AI systems is that unlike traditional software, they are not deterministic. Give an AI system the same set of inputs multiple times, and it will provide different outputs each time. As a consequence, companies are often hesitant to deploy AI in critical operations because they do not know whether everything will turn out as expected. And from that perspective, trustworthiness becomes a key condition that must be fulfilled before AI is adopted more broadly. Similar to the CIA Triad, when you set trustworthiness as the ultimate goal, it becomes easier to introduce AI governance into companies. And this is the interesting part. In the same way that CIA Triad provides direction for managing cybersecurity risks, trustworthiness provides direction for managing AI risks. When keeping trustworthiness in mind as a guiding principle, first of all, it becomes easier to identify which risks exist. If AI produces outputs that are biased, this will decrease trust in a particular AI system. For example, if an AI system that approves loans in a bank prefers men over women, then both employees and customers will not trust such a system anymore. Second, you can measure how significant those risks are by assessing their impact on trust. Following the same example, using questionnaires or some other methods, you can measure the reputational damage to this bank. And third, when selecting controls to reduce AI risks, you can evaluate those controls based on how they help build or preserve trust. In the case of this bank, you could choose training data that you trust, or introduce a trusted person to review all loan decisions. And by the way, in the show notes, you'll find a link to my video that explains in more detail the 11 AI goals that support this overall concept of trustworthiness. But there are other major challenges with AI. As Anthropic's AI model called Mythos has shown, AI has the capability to find vulnerabilities in almost any IT system. Furthermore, it is believed that AI models will soon be capable of suggesting ways to create biological weapons. In both cases, if such AI models fall into the wrong hands, they could cause catastrophic consequences. This means that we need to trust not only the AI systems we deploy, but also the companies developing AI models. And this brings trustworthiness to a different level. And again, trustworthiness can provide the same direction here. First, for identifying risks, then for prioritizing them, and finally, for implementing controls to reduce those risks. And finally, AI systems will change the entire economy by automating many processes and leaving many people without work, or significantly changing the nature of their work. This means we need to trust our societies and governments to make this transition as humane as possible. And indeed, this is trustworthiness on a whole new level. So, can trustworthiness provide direction for managing this difficult societal transition ahead of us in the same way as for AI deployment and AI development? Maybe, time will tell. But in any case, there is a lot we can learn from cybersecurity that can be applied to AI. This was Cyber and AI Perspectives with Dejan Kosutic. Talk to you again in 2 weeks' time.